Did you know that Europeans used voodoo or African spirituality to wipe the memories of the enslaved Africans before they board the good ship Jesus? Under the guise of research and friendship, Europeans infiltrated high African spiritual ranks and acquired secret knowledge that was later used to undermine many African kingdoms. African shamans, unaware of the ulterior motives, revealed spiritual rituals designed to erase traumatic memories, offering individuals a fresh start in life. There were two methods for this: drinking from the well of attenuation located in Gbarafu, Badagry, now known as Lagos, Nigeria, or performing a specific ritual around the Tree of Forgetfulness in Wida, Dahomey, present-day Republic of Benin. The Europeans colluded with African merchants to enchant the well of spirit attenuation. Every slave was forced to drink from this well, which caused them to lose consciousness and all memories of their origins, making them more controllable. Male and female slaves were then made to walk around the Tree of Oblivion 9 times, then 7 more times to further erase their memories. But this wasn't enough for the buyers. To completely break the slaves and disorient them, causing them to lose their perception of day and night, the slaves were subjected to further torture. They were chained in large dark rooms called zomai, meaning where light does not go. There, they remained in the same position for weeks or sometimes months, with a bite placed between their teeth to weaken them and prevent possible rebellion or alliances with other prisoners.
Long before the Haitian Revolution, before Louverture, Dessalines, or Bois Cayman, there was a man with one arm, no fear, and a mind like smoke, Francois Macandal. An enslaved African brought to Saint-Domingue, he escaped the sugar fields after losing his arm in a mill. But freedom wasn't enough. Macandal wanted revenge, so he vanished into the mountains and came back as a myth. They say he learned the forest, mastered roots, leaves, and poisons. He didn't lead an army, he led a network of healers, priests, cooks, and servants who could slip poison into a slave owner's cup and be gone before dawn. One by one, the French began to die. And Macandal, he didn't just resist, he prophesied, told the enslaved that white empires would fall and black sovereignty would rise in blood and fire. The French called him Satan, but the people called him Liberator. In 1758, they finally caught him, dragged him to Le Cap, chained him to the stake, lit the fire, but as the flames rose, he disappeared. Witnesses swore the chains rattled empty, that smoke curled into shapes, and that his laughter rode the wind above the flames. Some say he became smoke. Some say he transformed into a beast. Some say he never burned at all. And even today, in Haiti, Macandal is not remembered as a man. He is remembered as a spirit, a prophecy still walking. That broke me. Fact check. Macandal's poison art scared France so deeply, they outlawed herbs and root medicine across Haiti. Type Macandal if you believe some rebellions don't die, they evolve. Follow iconic facts because fire never forgets who lit it.
Our expression of the divine, of the unseen, is called Vodou. Vodou is how we view the universe, how we view the interaction between matter and non-matter. Nothing is free from non-matter, from spirit. In Vodou, each person have their spirit. As a group, we have a spirit, all of us together. As a nation, we have a spirit. The tree has a spirit. The cat has a spirit. And Vodou teaches that if I really want to understand what's going on around me, what's going on in the world where I'm at, I must understand the spirit of things. I cannot just know matter of things. And Vodou gave us a multitude of principles for understanding. As I told you, everything has a... If the black man, there's a spirit of the black man. There's the spirit of the African man. There's the spirit of the white man. Whether he knows it or not, he's got one. Now, when the first black woman was raped by the first white man, and they brought into this world somebody called a mulatto, do you think this person has another spirit? Of course. With every new matter that comes to be, a new spirit comes to be. The television is a machine. The camera is a machine. But the camera has a spirit. And the best cameraman is the one who understands the mechanical workings of this machine and the spirit of this machine. So if we really want to get to work, we not only need to know ourselves, the truth about ourselves in the flesh, we need to know the truth about our own spirit. So we can tell, in fact, if you don't get into your spirit, how will you be able to kill this white man that's hiding in front of you without killing yourself? He and you mingled in like this. If you're going to go get him, there's a large chance that you will kill yourself when you shoot at him, unless you know your spirit. And our people in Haiti have devised a system that allows us to understand the spirit of humans. And this understanding of spirits of humans, if we all knew it and applied it, it will make interaction between us so much easier. Vodou is not, you see, in Africa, I hate to talk about religion. Be careful. Religion is a business in which they sell God. And this business works very well for whoever sets up the shop. Okay? Now, when we're talking about Vodou, we're not talking about a religion. We're talking about understanding your profound nature, so you can be and live as who you are. Nobody can come and tell you, well, hey, you want something? I'm going to see that will give me $5,000. Now I'm going to call God up there and, tell him. No. And this is something that sometimes I found so sad, that we have a lot of people who claim to be Hungan and practicing Vodou, and they're doing the business, the same business as the Catholics, and they're trying to turn it into a religion. In fact, something horrible is happening at home right now. A lot of Hungan today are starting to dress in the robes, the big white robe or black robe the priests used to wear, that they're not wearing anymore. Now the Hungans at home are wearing them with a big cross on their stomach. They're giving up the asson, a thing they used to shake. They're now taking the cloche, the bell. Ding, 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 ding. If you go certain ceremonies today, you go to them and you think you're in church. Anyway, today a lot of them start with, "Our Father who art in heaven." Yes. And that is sad. That is out of nature, out of themselves. Spirituality, nobody can teach it to you. You need to get the fundamentals of any books, any spiritual system. You can get the fundamentals and then look at inside of you and then determine how you are going to use the fundamental principles to improve your life. But nobody can tell you, you must pray every Friday, you must do this every Saturday, you must do that every Sunday. No. Because what is good for you is not necessarily what I need. You may need to go into yourself and meditate 100 times a day. And even the same person will not need it the same way all the time. You, in certain circumstances, you need to be meditating and finding all your forces, gathering all your forces continuously certain days. And then other days you may not even think about it. It doesn't mean you don't pray. Because everything you say, if you're living your own life, if you are who you are, and you know who you are, and you live working towards realizing your mission in life, every sound of it out of your mouth is a prayer. Every gesture you make is a prayer. Every dance you dance is a prayer. And when you make love with somebody, you are praying. If you know who you are and this person knows who they are, there isn't anything that you do that is not a prayer when you know who you are.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Brought to you by, powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. Become a part of something extraordinary. New Orleans International Voodoo Day is not just an event. It is a movement that celebrates culture, fosters education, and connects people from around the globe. By sponsoring this event, you're supporting a tax-deductible cause that preserves heritage, uplifts art and education, and fosters healing within the community and beyond. Your sponsorship goes beyond promoting your business. It demonstrates your commitment to cultural preservation and education while supporting a unique event that brings international recognition to New Orleans. Events like symposiums, art exhibitions, sacred processions, and global speakers offer unparalleled opportunities to honor history and inspire a brighter future. Supporting an event like this means empowering a community, enriching cultural understanding, and making a meaningful impact on the world. It connects your brand to a celebration that values unity, diversity, and progress while helping preserve traditions for generations to come. Please join us in creating a legacy. Explore our sponsorship tiers and help us make New Orleans International Voodoo Day an unforgettable celebration. Together, we can uplift the community and inspire the world. And we're certainly indeed appreciative and thankful for your continued support every weeknight, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, for this powerful podcast on a social media platform near you. And certainly, you are free to please like, share, follow, subscribe, and repost this podcast for others to explore. We're thankful for those of you who are showing up live in the chat. Greetings to our community member, Daniel Neal. We certainly appreciate you. Ray Alexander, thank you for your continued support and attention. S. Marie, we certainly are thankful for your support and showing up here with us today. And we will unmute our beloved Joshua Nylan Tanner, First Priest, Wild Man of Black Hawk Voodoo, and Temple member of the Source, Queen Mother Sister Toni Val Martinez, and Elder Reggie, we know on this platform as Green Soap, leader of Shrine of the White Cloth. We will unmute you momentarily after a brief reorientation. Continuing the effects of the Nat Turner slave revolt on the health and welfare of 19th century slaves in Southern Virginia and ultimately throughout the South. Slave revolts in the South. Nat Turner's insurrection in Southampton was not the first slave revolt with which the South had dealt with, nor would it be the last. From Starno, South Carolina, to John Brown's standoff at Harper's Ferry, slave revolts in the U.S. South were distinct from their Latin American counterparts in many ways. There were also differences among slave revolts that took place within America, since each revolt was a product of its particular time and must be interpreted within the social and political context in which it took place. But they can also, to some degree, inform one another. But they can also, to some degree, inform one another. The most important slave revolt in relation to the Southampton uprising is likely the Sterno River Revolt. This revolt took place in 1739 in Starno, South Carolina. As with the Turner Revolt, not only are many of the exact facts surrounding the revolt fuzzy, but it also took place in the context of larger regional tensions. The Sterno Revolt was in many ways a turning point for slavery in South Carolina, leaving more than 60 dead, including 25 slaves, and ushering in sweeping new laws, just as happened after the Nat Turner Revolt. The Storno River Revolt was planned in secret among a few slaves who likely were veterans of the Congo Civil Wars and was carried out with precision and preparation on September 9th, 1739. On that Sunday morning, the group of slaves, heralded by drums and banners, set out on a steady march south from plantation to plantation, killing and burning their way towards Georgia, then to the Spanish colony of Florida, where they could be free. 1 week and 30 miles later, the revolt came to an end, although it would be another 3 years before the last of the leaders were captured. The militia force, which stopped the Sterno rebels, was made up of local volunteer whites who spent most of the week drunk and amassed a 90 franc alcohol tab, which they charged to the colonial government. And despite the clear preparation, the Storno rebels were still forced to conscript reluctant slaves from their plantations they went to. Furthermore, the date for their revolt was chosen with great purpose, as it were mere weeks before the implementation of the Security Act, requiring men to carry guns to church on Sundays, went into effect. This revolt can easily be contrasted to the Nat Turner Revolt with its execution, although the responses were in many ways similar. The Sterno Revolt took place in the context of a larger regional conflict. The Sterno Revolt happened during a time of high tensions between the British, including their American colonies, and the Spanish, just as the Nat Turner Revolt could never take place there. Um, just as the Nat Turner Revolts, something is missing here, could never take place there. This era of benevolence was shattered by the Turner Revolt and made the crumbling of the facade even more devastating. To call Nat Turner's revolt a rebellion or a revolution or even a revolt may be a bit of an overstatement. The event itself lasted only 24 hours, although he would not be caught for another 6 weeks. No ground was ever held for the rebels, and the preparation for the insurrection was limited at best. Although the rebellion itself was highly confined, the importance cannot be overstated. The revolt took place not just in the context of the sectional crisis, but also within the context of the Virginia slavery debates of 1831 to 1832. It was at this time that the Commonwealth of Virginia was having a debate within itself on the rightness of slavery. And just as the slave debates grew geographic lines within Virginia, the more populous and slave heavy Tidewater and Central Virginia being in favor of continuing the practice, while the Western and mountainous portions believed it allowed power to be more strongly concentrated among planter elites. There have been many claims made about Nat Turner's reason for rebelling. Specifically, speculation has gone into what events and ideas would have caused him to take up arms and revolt. At the time, many, including Virginia Governor John Floyd, argued that Turner had been inspired to rebel by the work of radical Republicans and Northern abolitionists. This claim, of course, must be taken into the context of sectional crisis that was gripping America and would lead to the Civil War. Despite the ease of blaming Northern agitators, which fit neatly into the established narrative, and promoted the worldview of a lifestyle under attack, which in many ways it was, there is no evidence that Nat Turner ever had any contact with abolitionist pamphlets. In his confessions, Nat Turner did not mention exposure to abolitionist literature, although there were abolitionist tracts and pamphlets circulating in the area at this time. They had been smuggled in the hopes of sparking change. These pamphlets prompted the passage of the April 7th, 1831 law banning the teaching of slaves or free Black people to read. And while they did not actually inspire Turner, the literature would have been fresh in the minds of Virginians when Turner set upon his bloody business. Turner did have notions that his rebellion would spread like a fire, feeling inspired to act by much higher powers. And as we mentioned in previous podcasts, it was speculated that he was inspired by religion, perhaps Christianity, perhaps the Bible, but we also understand that religion also could have been a mask for hoodoo, obia, voodoo, as well as maroon knowledge and information to be further carried out within these plantations and environments. And as I begin to open the mics for my co-hosts, I just want to add further, a great deal is made on the fact that Nat Turner was moved to rebellion by divine revelations. But this must be taken in the context of the time and the prevailing religious ideas. Nat Turner claimed to have been inspired by 9 separate revelations in which angels and visions appeared before him, often while in the fields, and compelled him to act. To the modern reader, this idea is outside the mainstream and supports the portrayals of Turner as a wild, fanatical Baptist preacher, as Drury would argue. But it is important to take this into context of the Second Great Awakening. At this time, the rationalism of the Enlightenment that guided many of the founding fathers was giving way to a more ecstatic and emotional religion. It is during the Second Great Awakening that American Protestantism shifted from the Calvinist view of hellfire and damnation to a greater emphasis on salvation and rebirth. Furthermore, the evangelical movement also largely rejected the Calvinist notion of predestination in favor of the concept of universalism. This meant that heaven was no longer the exclusive domain of a few who had already been selected, but rather was open to anyone who accepted God and salvation. And it was from this time period forward that we get much of the modern evangelical movement's strong emphasis on a personal and intimate connection with God, which forms the basis of Southern Baptists as a whole, and really part of the foundations of the Black Spiritualist movement, which then morphed into Pentecostalism. And I'm certainly intrigued by what Elder Reggie might have to add to that as we bring in our beloved co-host, Elder Reggie Green Soap, leader of Tribe White Cloth, beloved Sister Toni Martinez, Queen Mother, and our beloved brother Joshua Nylan Tanner. Please, what say you?
Yes. Good evening, Divine Prince, Brother Joshua. Yeah, can you hear me? I didn't want to talk over you. Good evening, Divine Prince, Brother Joshua.
Yes.
Toni in the collective audience in the chat. And it was elegant that brought in the time of the spiritual awakening. Even though slavery was in effect at that time, there had begun people, because of the awakening, seeing slavery as not the right thing to do anymore. And I believe from that awakening, we start getting a strong push from abolitionists, mainly like in with some of the states outside of the slave states. After 1831, they begin to start putting pressure on the slave states to try to change some things up. And so with that being said, that's all I can add at this moment, that the Great Awakening did shift the mindset of some of the powers that be.
Hello. Hello,
Yeah.
everybody. Out there in the listening audience, Divine Prince, Brother Joshua, Elder Reggie. Yeah, I think, it was the Great Awakening. And I think maybe with all the uprisings that were going on around, some we know about and definitely some we'll never know about, that the punishment on the slaves that weren't a part of those became harsher and harsher as the slave owners became more afraid of the slaves. And I think that drove that harshness, and the way they were treating the slaves was getting so outrageous that helped fuel, the abolitionists, and they was seeing it. I mean, they were seeing it because most of the people up north still had relatives down south that they had to go visit, and they witnessed for themselves, a lot of the stuff that was going on. Like I said, I don't see how the plantation owners and the overseers they lived in constant fear. They lived in fear of the unseen and the seen. And then when you add John Brown in the mix, they didn't know who to trust amongst their own people.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have wanted to be a slave owner if my life had to be a constant state of fear. Every little sound at night, can't sleep at night. You're scared somebody gonna poison. You're scared your children gonna get poisoned. That just had to be a hard way to live.
You're right.
To me.
You're right, Sister Toni. How you guys doing this evening? This Brother Josh and Elder Reggie. Sister Toni and Divine Prince. I just want to kind of get some context of what we're speaking about in terms of just what you're speaking of in terms of the restrictions and the restraints that people was underneath doing that, especially.
Yeah, you went out, Brother Josh.
I want to read off what is this? The act of the better orderings and governings of Negroes and other slaves in this providence that the British had put into place, so we have a better understanding of the fear that they had. This act starts, and for those, it says, and for that, as it is absolutely necessary for the safety of this province, that all due care be taken to restrain the wanderings and meetings of Negroes and other slaves at all times, and more especially on some Saturday nights, Sundays, and other holidays. And they're using and carrying wooden swords and other mischievous and dangerous items, or using or keeping of drums, horns, or other loud instruments, which may call together or give sign or notice to another of their wicked designs and purposes. So that really speaks to the fear that they had. Like, they didn't, even the instruments that we utilize, they fear. The things that we use naturally, or the things that we utilize to express ourselves.
Bring us enjoyment.
Yeah, and bring peace. They looked at those things as weapons. Um, and that speaks to the mindsets of those people at that time, and I think that they feared those things because of the guilt. I think, to be honest with you, the guilt of the conditioning that they was putting humans underneath, the restrictions and restraints that it was putting people underneath to keep people from being who they were. They knew how well. I'm sure they knew how intimate those things were to us and what it did for us. But to see it as a weapon and to list it with swords and other, utilized weapons for military use, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, music is a weapon, but the music that we have and that we share is a spiritual thing. It's always been a spiritual thing. So it speaks to the spiritual warfare that we continuously fight today, in voodoo and hoodoo and the misrepresentation of our practice and what we do. So,
Just like they say, it's ingrained in us, some of the traumas carried over in our DNA from slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the fear trauma is carried over into their DNA, because to this day, they fear us as much now as they did back then.
Mm-hmm.
They fear us the same. And like Brother Joshua said, it might come from guilt. Still, they quick to tell us, oh, forget about it. That was so long ago. Do. Well, why you still hating? Why y'all ain't forgot about it? Y'all still have Civil War reenactments. Like,
Mm-hmm.
y'all gonna change the outcome. I mean,
yeah.
they don't forget about it. They got their flag. They got their songs.
Yeah. And Sister Toni, and I like to just add a little bit to what you're speaking of, and this is something that I went through personally. We had right after the George Floyd murder in Minnesota, there was and then they had these tiki guys back in Virginia with the tikis talking about burning it down. But anyway, it started pushing the narrative of take down the Civil War veterans, like memorials, like statues and
Yeah.
plaques and things of that nature. So in the city of New Orleans, we had Beauregard as you go into City Park, and then we have what's called Lee Circle. At the top of Lee Circle stood a 30 feet high statue of General Robert E. Lee on a equestrian horse. And to take those things down, there was death threats on general contractors who was going to go around and take these statues down. So what the mayor did at that time, which was Mitch Landrieu, he used the fire department, had us to mask up so you couldn't see our likeness. Let's just go with that, and use the tools that we had to take those statues down, because the general contractors was getting death threats and they did not want to touch it, because these civil rights zealots, they was angry, and they murder to maim you was not taken off the table. And so what you're speaking to is a real inbred energy that comes from people who are trying to hold on to the old way, the way of slavery, the way of when they say America was at its great. And that's what I wanted to add.
You're right. You're right. I remember that time. During that time, that was pretty. And it happened all throughout the South, Florida, all the way through Georgia. I mean, all throughout the Southeast.
And quiet as it kept, they still were taking down some statues. I just read where they just took one down somewhere, but they was doing everything quietly because this was already slated to be taken down before Trump got in office. Now Trump wants to replace all of them
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Back, he's already changed the names of the Confederate army bases back to what they were.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
changed the ships, the military names of the ships back to the Confederates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in their mind, they gonna make it like it was for them when it was great for them.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about it, with all the fear they had to have, America wasn't great for them either. Except, when you got it money wise, I mean, they fed off of money. That's why when the stock market crashed, they was falling out of buildings. That's when the Civil War came and they changed the money
Mm-hmm.
from the Confederate money, and they lost all the money they had. They was committing suicide
Mm-hmm.
back then.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it don't look like with all the wars we fought in, the Spanish War and all of these wars, when was it great?
No, no,
Mm-hmm.
that
When
part.
was it great? That's an illusion in their mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With them, for America to be great is to have control over another set of people.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video, well, I don't know, but if y'all know about the ice raid at the Hyundai factory in Georgia of the Koreans, and that's a big old media thing. But I saw a white woman turned them in, a white woman, and she proud. She all over social media proud that she turned in the workers at the Hyundai factory, who was actually, it turns out to be engineers and people that was training Americans on what to do at the factory to make these batteries, because it's their technology. So she just squashed a lot of jobs because there's nobody to train them. In Korea, it's like, we don't trust y'all no more. So this black woman got on there and she was like, yeah, ICE keep doing what they doing because that was all that girlfriend. What you gonna do when they come for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we the last ones they gonna tackle because we the biggest problem. So they gonna ease out all the rest of them that they think might even join with us out of a sense of fighting them until they come for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can't control us. They got to get rid of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
It's gonna be a hard
They
task of doing
can't
that.
control us. They
That's
can
gonna be
round us up and ship us off somewhere else, like their people was done when this was wilderness, and their jails were being emptied, and they prisoners, they criminals was sit over here. The first ones of them to come over here was criminal.
yeah.
So we surprised when they act criminal. It's in their DNA.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, I used to at work, especially at the Fairmont, it's the Roosevelt now, when David Duke was running for governor, and all the white male security that we had been working with for years just turned on us like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They just turned on us. And me and one of them had got into it, and I had already counted. I already knew how they was going to act, and he gonna holler, how you know what we was planning on doing? I say, you forget I'm half white. I just turned on the white side of my brain.
Not even that. It's like we've lived under these conditions for generations, man, and we've been subjugated, and we have to observe, and we have to observe to survive. So
But they,
observing
and
them, we learn from them. We know their ways. We know how people move. We know the tricks. We know what to expect. We know what to anticipate.
yes, because they never do nothing new.
No.
It's a disease. It's a war. It's a disease. They're going to come with us with a disease. Or they going to come with us physically fighting. If we know our history, we can see it. A rose is still a rose by any other name. We didn't seen all this before. But unless you know what to look for, right now you need to go read Hitler autobiography to see what they're doing right now. Because Trump is playing it step by step, page by page. But we know the outcome of Hitler, but that don't mean that's going to be the outcome of this regime.
Yeah.
Because it's always a twist. When history repeats itself, but at least you know what time it is. We always ask what time it is. What time it is. It's time for you to learn your history. It's time for you to start planning on your survival.
It's true.
That's what time it is. What's happening? What's happening is we're slated for termination. Now, we might not live to see it, but our grandchildren and their children surely will. So we got to know to prepare them.
Yeah. Future.
You know, my middle daughter came over tonight and she said, she was telling me about her neighbors was gone that she was having a problem with. She said, yeah, they had all that traffic and they were selling dope and everything, but me being my mama child, I did what I had to do, and she went to moving like sprinkle, wash, moving her hands and stuff. I said, yep, you got rid of them. I done got rid of a lot of neighbors. I done got rid of a lot of neighbors.
We got to do what we got to do to survive, and history, and we come from survivors, and I like us that we mentioned earlier in terms of the revolutionary aspect of things that we've had in our nature, and the things that we have to tap into that, and we have to do our homework and do our due diligence for ourselves, and continue to move forward with for the future and for the generations that's to come. But Elder Reggie,
Toni not and cleared whole blocks, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And buildings.
Yes, indeed.
Very, very interesting show. It went a little different, but it went in a direction that, and what I really admire about what we are doing, we are not taking the easy route. It's a tough route, and sometimes when you peel the onion back, there's tears, but it has to come forward because there's a cleansing whenever tears are coming down. And so as we unpack topics like this, and there'll be others in the future, it just have to come forward so healing can begin and we can move forward as a collective. I just wanted to add that before I read the Lest We Forget and close us out. But before I do that, I'd like to speak on our next moon ritual prayer and application ceremony. It is on Sunday, September the 21st, new moon solar eclipse, and that location is 710 Cluett Street in the New Orleans Bywater area. And it's a ritual for spiritual warfare and gathering. Even though that's a new moon, last night and tonight, There's been people doing rituals and prayers because of the blood moon. This is a powerful time right now as I speak, just to humble yourself, take your spiritual baths, burn your candles, and just be to yourself with the moon going through its cleansing and its phase at this time. Now I'll read Lest We Forget. The spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. We got to continue working on this social division. And right now, there's a new breed that's trying to reopen social division. And so we have to continue to pray and continue to hold our ancestors and their ancestors accountable that there's not a mass slaughter of human life on American soil. With that, I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Good night, everyone, and we love you all.
Good night.
Good night, Odabo.
That's true.
All right, so look, they've been lying to us since the day we've been born. They told us that the sun was just a ball of burning gas floating in space, just heat and light. Something that keeps the plants alive and gives you a tan. Well, that's the school book version. That's the bedtime story that they told to keep humanity asleep. The truth is, the sun is the source of the hologram we call the reality of life. It's the quantum server. It's the mainframe that keeps this entire reality running. And without its broadcast, this entire reality, the physical world you see, touch, hear, and smell would vanish like a dream when you wake up. To understand how, you need to understand the quantum field. Think of it as an invisible ocean that fills up space. In this ocean, nothing is solid yet. Everything exists only as potential, waiting to be shaped. Ancient people call this invisible ocean the ether. The sun is what powers and organizes this ocean. This ocean, without the sun's energy, this field would be cold, would be still, it would be inactive. Think of ether like clay. The sun's energy is what makes the clay warm and soft, ready to be molded. But here's the part that almost no one is told. The sun isn't just energy, it's information. Every ray of sunlight carries code, instructions telling the field how to rearrange itself into the reality that we experience. Now add consciousness. Your awareness is the sculptor. Your thoughts are the blueprints. When you focus your attention on something, a vision, an intention, or an idea, you are sending instructions to the ether. Because the sun has energized and organized the field, the ether can now shape itself around your thought, turning that thought into matter, the solid, tangible stuff of the world. So the chain is simple. Number 1, the sun powers and organizes the field. Number 2, the ether or the quantum field is the medium that reality is built in. Number 3, consciousness provides the blueprint. Number 4, the field shapes those instructions into matter. But there's another layer that they never tell you. The sun is also the physical manifestation of the collective consciousness. Think of it like this. Every mind, every thought, every dream, every act of awareness feeds into a single collective intelligence, a total mind of life in this system. So the sun is that mind made visible. It's the outward physical expression of the awareness of all beings. It's not separate from us. It is us, projected into the sky. It both expresses the collective consciousness and reflects it back to us. That's why when human consciousness changes on a mass scale, the sun activity changes on a mass scale. The flares, the cycles, the energy output, it's a feedback loop, and we feed it, and it feeds us. Together, we co-create this simulation that we live in. Our ancestors understood this. They didn't see the sun as some distant object. They saw it as a part of themselves, the great heart and mind of our shared reality. They aligned temples with its movements. They tracked Sirius, the galactic mainframe that beams higher codes into our sun, and lived in constant connection with its broadcast. They weren't worshiping a star. They were syncing their own consciousness with the source of the program. And here's where melanin comes in. I always say melanin is more than pigment. It's a biological antenna. Dr. Francis Cress-Welsing and Dr. Richard King explained how melanin can absorb the sun's spectrum, which means more of the data, more of the creative code flowing through the ether. And for melanated people, that means there is a natural tuning to the the sun, both the energy that it sends and the consciousness that it represents. Now think about what it means if the sun is the source of the field and the embodiment of our collective consciousness. That means when you're cut off from it, you're cut off from yourself. And the system that we live in has worked overtime to make that happen. It boxes people in the cities that block out the sky. It fills the air with noise and distractions. It forces us under artificial light and replaces the infinite, unfiltered cosmic Ethernet with a fake one. A man-made internet. The fake network mimics the real thing. Light pulses through the cables. Data is sent in packets like photons. But now it's filtered, owned, and controlled. Here's the dangerous part. In quantum mechanics, thoughts still become things. So if they can shape the thoughts by controlling the information, then they can shape the reality that those thoughts create. In other words, your power never disappeared. It's just been hijacked to keep their vision of reality in place. But no matter how advanced their imitation is, it will never replace the real organic network. The original network has never been shut down. The sun is still broadcasting. The ether is still charged and alive. The quantum field is still listening to your consciousness, ready to shape matter around your vision. And the sun, as the living mirror of the collective mind, is still reflecting back the potential of what we could be. Every moment you connect to it, when you're in real sunlight and your mind is clear, you're not just receiving data, you're participating in the collective mind of this reality. You're shaping it, feeding it, and pulling from it at the same time. And that's why this truth was hidden. Because when you remember that the sun is not just in the sky, but it's the living, physical representation of our shared consciousness and the engine that powers the field where thoughts become things, and you stop just being a character in somebody else's program. You start realizing you are part of the program itself with the power to rewrite it. They lied to make us forget. I'm telling you so we remember. The sun is the source. The ether is the medium. The quantum field is the workspace. And consciousness is the key. Matter is the result. That sun, that great golden mine in the sky, is us. All of us. Shining back at ourselves. Waiting for us to remember what we can do together.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this right in my DNA, yeah, I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the table, strip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees, it's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner away. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she straight. But she had one question: when we gone gon' get up. All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, Mitch, you ready to ride? Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. We are the children of the ancestors that weren't punk bitches.